check if it is live. Hello, everyone. Hannah here, and I'm with the amazing LaChelle Amos. Let us know. We'll just wait for a bit. I know some people want to watch it. I know a lot of people are going to have to get it on the replay. Time zone issues and work commitments. So we'll just wait for a bit. In the meantime, I can check if we're actually streaming. LaChelle, it's really amazing to have you here and share this space with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're live. I'm going to start by introducing LaChelle. LaChelle I've had the pleasure of working with her in her yoga classes, but also in her amazing program called Unstruck Sound, Feeling Seen, Heard and Valued, which I'm sure we'll mention later on. LaChelle is an international peace and conflict resolution expert with experience leading teams in the Middle East, in Africa, and Asia. And she blends this peace-building experience with heart wisdom coaching, yoga, and sound healing. And she's also a contributing author to international best-selling book, Awakening, Meet the Women Birthing a New Era, which was published in July 2020. LaChelle, it's a huge pleasure to have you here. And today we're talking about tuning into our heart wisdom. And what a perfect time as we're running this challenge, Client Attraction Spark, which basically is challenging people, my group members, to show up online every day. And as you know, with this comes a lot of challenges and resistance. That is why it is a challenge at the end of the day, right? I just want you to maybe just feel into that. Like, what does it mean to tune into our heart wisdom to begin with? You know, how maybe we can give a little bit of a context.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here. So maybe just to start with, what is heart wisdom? And really it's the innately intuitive voice of our heart. And our hearts are this amazing balance point, harmonizing the different layers of our bodies in terms of like physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, but they're also the center point in terms of the flow of our energy in the subtle body. So really kind of drawing together how we connect with ourselves, how we connect with one another, how we connect with however we define the divine. And so heart wisdom is this space and this innately intuitive ability that we all have to connect into this balance point, to connect into this harmony and union that is within the core of us, and that also is the voice of our intuition, the voice of our soul, I say, and coming through in our intuition. And so tuning into that means that we begin to balance out, we begin to better understand, we become more mindfully aware of what our resistance and patterns and habits, what our thoughts are, our limiting beliefs. And as we can tune into each of those, which often show up in terms of like different kinds of inner conflicts. So like these struggles that we have with ourselves, these areas where we're like, whoa, that doesn't feel comfortable. I don't really want to deal with that. So let me just set it over here. But really it's this invitation to be like, okay, let's lean into it and dive a bit deeper so that we can transform it. Right. And as we go through that process and we're able to connect in a new way with people around us, resolving external conflicts and relationships and communities, and most importantly, to be able to shine that heart light that all of us are. So I think that kind of gives a good background premise, and it's super relevant for what your group is going through with a challenge right now, because it's in tuning into this balance point that we're able to find our own sense of grounding and then be able to radiate out that light to others through whichever message that we are there to share.
Oh my God. Okay. That's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. And I think what a lot of us are experiencing through this process, I know I have experienced it. It doesn't mean I don't experience it anymore, but it's definitely that internal conflict of, we have that, we know we want to do this, we know we want to share, we know we have the wisdom to share, but that internal conflict, which may form limiting beliefs or self-doubt or what we call imposter syndrome, can stop us from actually coming through, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You've also been through this journey yourself, as a conscious entrepreneur and spiritual entrepreneur. How was, maybe you can share a little bit about your experiences or the processes you had to go through to get out there and share your light, share your message.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you said that you made reference at the beginning of what you were saying to like still going through these layers, and that's exactly what all of us go through, and it's the same with any type of healing that we do for, or any inner work that we do for ourselves, right? It's I always think of the movie Shrek, and at one point, like Donkey starts to talk about like the onion and peeling back the layers,
Yes.
and yeah, to add a little lighthearted analogy to it, and that's what it is. It's peeling back the layers, and so we slowly, when we're ready, when we can keep our nervous system regulated enough to do it, and we're in the space to actually go for the next layer, we kind of peel back that next layer, and there's a deeper component of it for us to work through. And yeah, so from my own experience, yeah, the amount of personal work that I have had to do in developing and just kind of getting my own business up and running, like I never anticipated when I made the decision to start my own business that it would require so much personal, like so much inner work, so much shadow work. Yeah, like no one, no one really talks about that. At least I had never
They don't.
really paid attention to that before. But it's a beautiful journey, and I'm delighted because in Nepal we say same but different, right? Like same person but very different person, because I've had to go through all these different layers of healing, and really mindfully observe where I am at and what's coming up for me in each moment. And I think that mindful awareness is a super huge part of it. So as a part of developing and growing my own business, like I've been able to become that mindful observer of my own thought patterns. And having worked for nearly a decade in country director positions in development and peace building and the humanitarian aid sectors, I was very much a top achieving striver, right? Like, I mean, perfectionism was my MO. And what came with it was this feeling of never being good enough, because I was constantly, I mean, that's something that stems much further back from that now I see, but it was constantly proving myself to others. And becoming a spiritual, consciously minded entrepreneur meant that I had to start to strip back the layers of my ego, because that's essentially what it was. That ego being both thinking too much of ourselves and too little of ourselves. And when I had that realization, was a massive aha for me. Oh, thinking too little of myself is just as much ego as someone thinking too much of themselves, because it strips us away from the light that we truly are, from our center point. And so finding that balance has definitely been a journey. And there are different layers of it that begin to show up when we start to face the outside world and want to share our message. And I mean, I will readily admit that I don't do lives as often as I probably should. So, like, that's an area where I can continue to work on. But in refining my message, it meant like understanding who my niche audience was and tuning into that message actually had so much more to do with showing up courageously and authentically as myself, right? Like sharing my experiences, my stories. And that was a huge turning point for me. I'll just add that there are definitely times where it's also important to have that space for stillness and silence. Like I've been going through that myself the last couple months, and I have not really been so active online because there's a peace that comes for me in the stillness right now, and there's a time when we need to step forward and be super active. And there's a time where we need to just step back and allow ourselves to hibernate in a sense and
Yeah.
restore and rejuvenate.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I love the part of the ego that you mentioned of thinking too much but thinking too little, because that thinking too little has really resonated with me because it kept me back for so many years, thinking I'm not good enough, thinking I'm not qualified enough, thinking who the hell cares about my story, who who will listen to me, all of these kind of questions. And I can see Adrian asked the question, how do we stay? Can you see the comments or only I can see?
I saw something pop up,
Okay.
but I don't see it now.
Okay. How do we stay with the heart wisdom and not let the mind bullshit us? So how do
Yeah,
we stay within that space, I guess?
that's such a great question. And really, it comes into, I mean, all of these things are things that take practice, right? Mindful awareness, it's a practice. So all of these different layers take practice. But to answer that question more specifically, it's about feeling into where that energy is in our body. It took a long time for me to get to the point where I finally realized that I could sense or feel like when I was too much in my head about something, like literally the energy was in my head. Like my head felt heavier than any other part of my body. And when we're in that place of our heart wisdom, we can actually feel it more in our body. We feel that sense of being centered, of being grounded. Excuse me. So it's so in those moments where we feel like we're starting to pull up out of our body, or we're too much in our head, or we maybe you don't feel it around your head, but maybe you feel it or you sense it in terms of your nervous system, and you notice your breath is really short, or you're feeling a bit fidgety or antsy. These are also really good physical indicators that we're too much in this head energy. And so in those moments, whatever your go-to practice is for grounding, for centering, come back to that. And I'll just say, like, one of the quickest, and in my opinion, one of the most effective ways to do that is by using the breath. So and it's really simple breath. Like if you just inhale in through your nose and then exhale out audibly, connecting with sound through your mouth. So adding in that sigh, this breath actually allows us to connect it. It activates the vagus nerve, which is one of the 10 cranial nerves, one of the longest ones in the body. So it connects into a lot of our major organs. And it's also responsible for activating our parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the rest and digest system. It's the system that tells the body, I'm safe, I'm okay, I can relax. Whereas like if you feel like really jittery, your breath is really short, you're stressed out, you're anxious, that's activating this. Then you have an overactive sympathetic nervous system, that fight, flight, freeze system. And that has a purpose, and it's super important for us to be aware of when we need to have that system active. But when we're in that fight, flight, freeze state for too long, it means that we start to drain our adrenal glands. We it's drawing all the energy into these systems that keep us hyper vigilant and alert, and it keeps the energy flow less to the digestive system and like the other systems in our body that allow us to actually fully relax. So tuning into how your body is physically reacting, or what's going on physically in your body, is a great way to know whether or not you need to ground and come back into the heart. So that breath that inhale through the nose, exhale out through the mouth, this is a great way to start to balance that. And then if I may, I can share one more breath about really coming into the heart.
Yes,
so
please.
To really to help come into that balance point and really tune into our heart wisdom, once we've established that our nervous system is even keeled, that we're regulated, and we want to show up on a live or whatever it might be, but really draw in that vulnerable courage to share our heart light in whatever message that may be. We can do that also through the breath, allowing the breath to flow in and out of the heart. So if we inhale, visualizing that flow of oxygen into our heart space, and exhale, visualize it radiating out in all directions around you. And just sit for a couple minutes, just allow the breath, visualize, follow the flow of the breath, inhaling into the heart and exhaling out. And as you do this, it's going to calm your body, and it's going to allow you to come into that heart wisdom. It actually also has been proven, this breath technique synchronizes the rhythms of the heart, the brain, and the lungs. So your body is more attuned, more aligned with your major functions, and then that puts you in a very grounded place to be able to then share with others.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing those breathing techniques. I think that's super valuable. I'm hearing an echo on my voice.
I think it just dropped. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's so amazing, and I can feel, even though I'm going live every day, I can feel that nervous system kind of coming out of whack just before I'm going online, right? So I really also I try to, tune into my breath to kind of relax and slow down those rhythms. So thanks for sharing the technique to do that.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. I even do this before I write posts, like social media posts. Like really
Exactly.
just coming into that heart coherence breath allows me to create this space to kind of write whatever it is that my audience needs that day, and to ensure that I am fully in tune with my own emotional state, so that I'm not projecting out any stress or frustration that may have surfaced up throughout the course of the day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I know that we can feel each other's energy. It's even though we're not in the room with that person, definitely it can show up. I'm just sharing some of the comments. Entrepreneurs have the courage and why to jump off the cliff. Then we get to figure out how to build our inner wings, our plane to land in our desired promised land. Love this. Thank you. Oh my God. I love you. This is everything I teach. So I can't see the name of that comment here. So epic. You're bringing this together also. Yes, and it is so important. And I think what LaChelle was mentioning before about like no one really prepared us for this inner work in business. It is so true. I think for me on a personal level, I have never done such in-depth work before as of last year, I mean, in 2020, just because I was taking those actions, but every time was, finding these resistances or obstacles that I had to face. I had to uncover. I was unlayering, peeling the onion, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's also like the more that we're able to hold space for ourselves, the bigger the space that we're able to hold for our clients or our students. So if we're unable to do that, if we're unable to lean into our own emotional state and to regulate our own nervous system and to show up grounded, how can we possibly expect to do that for those that we serve?
For sure, for sure. And it's also, I know that we're going to be speaking a lot about this on Monday with Chad Nedland, who's also going to be invited in the group, but it comes with like framing ourselves, right? Not only framing our video and how we stand or how we show up, and but even just our energy and how we prepare for that on a physical, emotional mindset level.
Yeah. Oh, I love that I'm glad that you have someone that's going to talk more about it, because it is like the physical presence too, like that
Yeah,
heart wisdom, drawing the shoulders, relaxing them down from the ears, drawing them back, like opening that space around our heart, like allows us to come into that heart wisdom a little more as well, like on the physical and subtle body level.
yeah. Fantastic. I think from my side, I've covered my questions. You've answered my questions without me asking them. So I don't know, LaChelle, if there's something you'd like to share, or you guys who are watching, I know I can see 5 of you here with us. Any questions that you have, or any experiences, especially this week, where I know a lot of you are not used to coming out, especially on our personal profile, right? I'm encouraging them to come out onto their personal profile and invite people into their world and inviting them to share their light and their message on that space. So it's been I've seen some people really transform in just 5 days. People who have never posted anything to do with their profession and their work on their profile to suddenly going online and doing videos. So that whole transformation has been quite amazing this week. Let me know what challenges are coming up for you, and if you have any questions for LaChelle when she's here with us today.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I can just add in really quick, because as you were speaking, there were a couple things that came to mind. And one, that vulnerable courage to show up in, especially in a new way. Like there's one of the big ahas that I had a few years back, was that it was actually, I was watching a video called The Power of Belief by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and in it, he talks about crossing the river of change. And he says specifically that our brains are evolutionarily hardwired to release stress hormones every time we get too close to crossing over the edge of our comfort zone. And I remember at the time that I heard that, it was like early 2018, I heard that. And I was really in this phase of struggling with my inner critic. And I felt like I was getting so frustrated with myself, because I felt that I was self-sabotaging, but I couldn't understand why, because every ounce of me wanted to make these changes, but I just couldn't quite get there. And understanding that point actually allowed me to be so much more compassionate to myself. And so I would definitely say that for anyone whom that resonates with, it is so important in those moments where the fear comes up for whatever reason it's there, or where the inner critic starts to jump in and saying whatever it may be saying. It is so important to be compassionate to yourself, to really treat yourself with grace. And I think for many of us in a service capacity, it's so much easier to do that with someone else than it is with ourselves, right? And someone once suggested to me, like, replay the thoughts that you're having and direct them at someone you love. Would you say that to somebody that you love? Chances are you wouldn't. So it's this gentle reminder of really being compassionate with yourself. And then I'll just add also to that, like, Even yesterday, I was doing a journaling, a stream of consciousness journaling exercise, and it was very interesting because what came up, it was connecting into like this a past feeling of not being enough. And it was a younger version of myself who came up in this stream of consciousness journaling, who came up to remind me that even if I am not aware of the impact that it has, the way that I show up, the way that I make, the way that people feel when they're around me, the space that I hold for others, and the love that I express has a lasting impact that I may not see ever, but just to know that that is there, that impact is there. So I guess that just this loving reminder for whomever it may resonate with, like what you're sharing with your audience absolutely has an impact, even if people don't say it directly to you.
For sure, definitely. And about people not saying if that resonates with them immediately or directly, it's also just a reminder that your message is there to reach the right people. It doesn't need to reach everybody. Even, if it might reach one person today, it might reach another person tomorrow, but you want your message to reach the right people again. So this leads me to Adrian's question, in fact. How do we not let people's judgments or fear of them go into the heart?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that is definitely one that requires a lot of inner work to get to basically around this idea of feeling valued. Like where does our sense of value come from? Where do we source that? Where may we not be valuing ourselves fully or allowing ourselves to receive value from those who want to share it with us? Like these are just a couple key questions that kind of hit upon this. Or that touch upon it. And it's, again, it ties back into this practice of mindful awareness. So noticing the moments where you may not feel valued and kind of what the triggers are around that, how that feels in your body, and then slowly beginning to shift that, changing where you're sourcing your value so that it is more internal, and that the comments of other people or the approval or validation of other people aren't where you're finding your key source of value. So that's a long inner journey work, but hopefully that gives a good answer.
Yes, well, Adrian, I hope that gives an answer, because for me, it just reminded me about, I think it was a little bit more of a deep dive that I took with you actually during Unstruck Sounds, during your program of where am I seeking validation? And yeah, that was really huge for me. In fact, one of my questions, I'm not sure, I think you've answered this, but we all seek that feeling of being seen, heard, and valued, right? Which is your program. Yet when it's our time to shine, we hold back. Is that clear? You know what I mean? We all seek that. We all desire to be seen, heard, and valued. Yet when we're invited to do that, we kind of say, no, actually, I don't want it.
Yeah, because even once we start to become more mindfully aware of our patterns that feed into our feelings of being seen, heard, and valued, then there's that extra layer of the onion that comes up. And then it's, okay, so now our soul is asking us to vulnerably trust. Trust is a huge, huge part of that journey. And then comes the courage, right? Like we have to, it's really difficult to step forward and be courageous and do something if you don't first trust, one, in yourself, that you have the ability to do it, right? That's coming back to that self-worth in a way. But then also to trust, I would say trust within however it is that you define the divine, whether that's your higher self, the universe, source energy, God, goddesses, spirit guides, angels, whatever that might be. But to trust that in that connection, your work is doing exactly what it is meant to be doing in this moment. And I would say like that level of trust is a really key part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so important. The trust factor. I think this has played a big role in my work and in my inner journey. Tuning into that. Adrian, it does. That is my life work. Thank you. And Florian says, no judgment, only curiosity and compassion. Fantastic. Talking about feeling seen, heard, and valued, LaChelle, I brought you in here. I invited you in here because I trust you. I trust the process that you have shared with me during that program, and it really sparked a new sense of awareness or mindfulness as I continued months later after the program. I can't even remember which month it was that we took this program, but yeah, and it just it keeps the wisdom that you shared on the exercises that we did. I keep kind of going back to the resources that you shared also. Maybe you want to talk about it, or when your next program is, if it's happening soon, or any way that if you guys, I know that someone is saying, I can't see who's saying this. Oh my God, I'm literally crying. Clearly, this is a huge layer for me. So I don't know who this is, but any way that people can reach out to you. You guys, you all know that I bring experts in here, people who I trust, and if you'd like to work with LaChelle, obviously, that's so yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll be updating my website in the next couple of days, but the next version or the next round of Unstruck Sound is going to start February 15th, which is a Monday. Yeah, so February 15th will be the next start. It's a 4-week online program, online given current circumstances around the world. But yeah, so 4 weeks. It combines together a 2-hour masterclass that includes yin yang yoga. I also am a sound healing practitioner, so there's a lot of sound elements, sound healing elements. We talk about different acupressure points and mudras, and so all of that's incorporated into the masterclass. But with that, you also receive 2 different sets of emails each week on each topic that will give you journal questions and a variety of different resources to really look at feeling seen, feeling heard, feeling valued. And this round that's upcoming, I'm changing it up a little bit. So that 4th week is actually about feeling loved. And so tying all of that in with heart wisdom. So that's one way if you'd like a more participatory, like on the mat kind of approach. And then I also am a heart wisdom coach. So I have coaching packages that are also available. And those are on my website and my social media, Instagram and Facebook. And that's Silence of Sound Yoga. So the website, silenceofsoundyoga.com.
Amazing. I'll be dropping the links in the comment section here for her Facebook page and website, so you can contact LaChelle directly. She's also a member of our Facebook group, so she's in there if you would like to receive, if you accept, of course, to receive inbox messages. I don't want to overstep that boundary. Okay. Just be mindful, guys, about coming into the inbox of people. I don't want LaChelle to tell me, oh my God, they're driving me crazy. So please respect her space and time with that. Yeah, Miriam is saying, I did that just this week. I'm seeing this at late, Miriam, so I don't know what you are referring to. Got a great opportunity and had a moment of not believing in myself. Thankfully, I caught it and I called out my own bullshit. BS, she said.
Yeah. Awesome. Good job.
I don't use filters most of the time.
That's okay.
Amazing, Miriam. I'm glad that you've realized that you had that you caught it in time and carried on. because that's what it's all about, right? So I mean, when we talk about this being a practice, it doesn't really happen overnight. I mean, I still find myself sometimes with the same thoughts and the same limiting beliefs, except now I can quickly catch them out and say, wait a second, this is happening again, and I can sit with it for a while and find a different path, or maybe change my narrative to something more empowering, or whatever
Yeah.
exercise I decide to do on the day. But yeah, it's a practice. It's a practice.
I love that you just said it that way, because I think especially like in our modern day society, this instant gratification, like we expect things to happen so quickly, and this is not a quick process. This is yeah. The point is like noticing it quicker is, even if you're noticing it just like, I mean, it may be 10 seconds before you realize you're caught up in a story, right? And the next time, maybe it's 9.5 seconds before you realize you're back in that same story. Like, it can be just a tiny, tiny little fraction of a second sooner. That still may seem a really long ways away, but that progress comes with time, and it comes with the practice, with the repetition. And I think that's also like, as we start to draw that awareness in for ourselves and to make those changes for ourselves, then we can be the change that we want to see in the world around us as well. So it's especially at a time when there's so much where there's seemingly so much chaos and suffering, right? We want things to change overnight, and some things can, but when we get to these issues that are really deep rooted, they take a bit longer.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. I was going to say something on that. I just went blank. Miriam said, yes, I was referring to shying back, just at the moment that I can shine, that we can shine. Yeah, thanks, Miriam, for clarifying that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know. I came back. About like you guys in my group, you always know how I compare like our progress, our actions in business to all our life experiences and our inner journey and our development work. One cannot happen without the other. Your business cannot run without that inner work. And this is why I bring people like LaChelle in here, because it is so important that we do this together. If we want to take leaps forward in our business, we need to deal with that crap that's anchoring us down, right? We need to learn how to process through and what's the word? LaChelle, can you? Oh, not overcome. I wouldn't say overcome, but yeah, unpack it so that we can keep on moving forward. Basically, I think unpacking or unlayering is the right word for that.
Yeah, and
But yeah.
yeah, to make those transformations, and then also like just to be that support for each other as well. I mean, you hold the space, Hannah, for this beautiful sangha, this like-minded community, which is so important right now, especially at a time when there is a lot that's going on that seems pretty dark in the world. Just to realize that like we are light, and this is the time that we are here for. So shining, like getting out there and saying what you need to say, like even if it's just a couple seconds or a couple sentences, is going to make a difference in someone's life.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Amazing. I just want to be mindful of your time, LaChelle, with us here today. If there are any other questions, I'm not seeing anything coming in. But if there are any questions, and I know a lot of you are going to be seeing it on replay, LaChelle is in the group, so if she has some time to respond later, you can tag her in there, and she will reply when she can.
Yeah, I'll be happy to.
Yeah. Okay, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. And I'll drop the links to her Facebook and website for more information for those who are interested in working with LaChelle on this topic, because it's actually really amazing work that she does.
Thank you so much.
From experience. So LaChelle, thank you so much for sharing this space with us and sharing your wisdom and knowledge as always. And yeah, I need to go cook, Adrian is saying. We'll do it from the heart.
Uh, yeah, well, thank
Amazing.
you so much, Hannah, for having me, and for those of you who've joined live, and for those of you who will watch it on the replay. I truly hope with all my heart that there's some little piece of it that is a gem for you today, that it's a word that resonates with you. Thank you.
Namaste. And have a good
Bye.
evening, everyone. Well done.